Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the March 5th, 2018 Informal County Commission meeting. At this time, we have 4 folks that would like to address the commission. I'll call on you individually to come up. If you would, please give us your name and address. We ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes. We'll have a timer on you. If the timer goes off and you're still going, I'll just ask you politely to try to finish up. So at this time, Ms. Jenna Holloman from United Way.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor. Just here tonight, on behalf of United Way of the Greater Clarksville, to let you know what United Way's impact is doing in the community, to thank you for your support, and ask you to consider furthering our partnership again this year. As he mentions, most of you know, I'm the director of United Way of the Greater Clarksville region. United Way fights for the education, health, and financial stability of every resident in our community. We do that in a number of different ways, as you're aware. One of that is through fundraising. Mayor Durrett and Jeff and I were just out at Hancock moments ago while they presented funds to United Way to help support tornado relief, and so we are very grateful to them for that. Also volunteering, helping to connect those who want to serve with opportunities to make a difference, and advocating, which is creating a voice for critical needs in the community. And just to kind of, I know we've got a very quick time period, so I'm not going to go into detail as I have in years past about the needs assessment, but just to kind of give you a highlight of what we've been able to accomplish together with the funds that Montgomery County government has entrusted to United Way, and the employee giving. Shout out to Michelle and Tim for leading this year's efforts. The employee giving campaign increased over $5,000 to just under $25,000 this year, so thank you to you and to each employee who gave, as well as to you all for your support. Together, we raised over impacted over 78,000 lives last year because folks like you raised their hands to help. Folks like those that we saw out collectively together that were reaching out to help those affected by the tornado in our community. It was incredibly inspiring to see everyone come together. 325 local veterans and their families receive free counseling to better manage the impact of military services through programs like Soldiers and Families Embrace, SAFE, and Operation Stand Down Tennessee. Over 27,000 people received resources for basic living needs and allowed them to provide independently for their families. Whatever the barrier may be, sometimes it's just like a mother who had was served by Safe House, had been a victim of domestic violence, was going through the nursing program, and just needed the special type of shoes that were required of nursing students and to enter the nursing profession. United Way dollars were able to provide her that pair of shoes, which allowed her to be able to gain the employment that she needed to care for her families. Over close to 10,000 individuals received crisis intervention through the Crisis 211 Center, which is a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week, 365-day-a-year hotline for folks to call in varying types of assistance, whether that's suicide prevention, just needing information about different resources, sometimes just needing to cool off and have somebody to talk to. So that is a tremendous need that has been filled. The Youth CAN program is a tremendous program offered by the Mid-Cumberland Human Resource Association. So through that program, over 1,000 low to moderate income youth were able to overcome the barriers to complete their educational or career goals. Whatever they need, this program provides. And then also 17,000 hot meals delivered through programs like Meals on Wheels that many of you are familiar with. And like I said, not going through this real in-depthly because I know we're on a tight timeline, and I wanted to be able to share with you a new program. It looks like our font's a little off there. But in our needs assessment each year, one of the areas that we identified of greatest need was for local organizations, churches, government entities, schools, crisis responders, volunteers to be able to better communicate and respond to most efficiently provide and serve that need. And so when we looked at what the solution might be for that, it is a product called Charity Tracker. Charity Tracker is a cloud-based service. It's used in over 1,000 different communities around the country, and we are thrilled to be able to provide this now in our community in partnership with Montgomery County. It has a lot of different features. One of those is a broad-based bulletin and alert. So for example, if you become aware of a need, then the nonprofits or churches or whoever is responding, first responders don't have to spend all day calling around. They can put up that bulletin and it immediately goes out to everybody that subscribes to that. You can share information. All of the agencies, or like I said, churches, whomever, can list all that they're providing and be able to communicate better, and most importantly, reduce the duplication of services, and which saves thousands of dollars, and those dollars can be most efficiently invested in the community. It encourages better accountability, which is what United Way stands behind. The reason that you have entrusted us with the funds that you've given us, it is very important. To me, it is non-negotiable. You also have that access round the clock. So, for example, if one of our first responders responds to a call and identifies that a child is in need, they could access the website and be able to get some immediate support no matter what time of the day or night it might be. So just wanted to make you aware of this resource, encourage you to communicate that with your different networks and get on board with this, and thank you for allowing us to have this opportunity. We also have a new website called Volunteer United. We're able to use that during the tornado response to recruit volunteers, not just in crisis, but whatever the case may be, to come together and respond as efficiently and effectively as possible. I do have I'm going to fast forward through the video since we're on a tight timeline. But essentially, United Way does not sit back and wait for problems to land in our lap. We go looking for those. When you ask yourself who will tackle the problems that nobody else will, the answer is that together we will. United, we fight, and united, we win. We kicked off our campaign this year with a game changer theme, thanks to the help of the Austin P. Govs that carried that through for us. But we just want to let you know that your support helps that fight become a win, and thank you for that. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Any questions of Ms. Holloman?
All righty,
I
much.
just want to say thank you, not only for what y'all do in our community throughout the year, but your response during the tornado and your continued response for the folks down in the Deepwood subdivision area and in the Farmington area has just been outstanding. And I know a lot of people probably could not get themselves back on their feet without the help of United Way. So thank you so much.
Well, we do all that together. Thank you all very much.
All right, next we have Mr. Stephen Curry.
Good evening, Mayor Durrett and Commissioners. Last month, Don Jenkins, a member of the Charter Commission, stated that the Charter Commission was spending $25,000 for a telephone survey. They've wasted a huge amount of tax money doing this. I am asking the County Commission to do a full investigation into this issue. A 10-question phone poll is a very ineffective way to get input from the citizens for a charter with dozens of pages and hundreds of details. They paid for the survey in full on January 17th, 2018. I have a copy of that check. Who pays for services contract like that in full up front before the survey is even started? There are several business owners and high executives on the Charter Commission. I bet they wouldn't do that with their company's money or their own. Oh, that's right. They're spending other people's money. Also, $25,000 is the highest amount that can be spent without a sealed bid process. That's a big red flag. The vendor they used, Red Ivory Strategies, LLC, has absolutely no web presence, no web page, no email address or phone. How was this vendor chosen? Well, it turns out that this is the same vendor that the Committee for a United Community PAC used. But the PAC only paid $7,000 for a survey they did. The Charter Commission paid 3.5 times that amount, what the PAC paid, for a very similar survey. I know that because I received a call from the PAC with their 5 questions. And I also have a copy of the draft questions from the Charter Commission poll. Well, maybe the PAC owes the vendor more money. But that would be bad too, because then the PAC received a deal that the Charter Commission didn't get, breaking up the payments. Let's get back to the $25,000. I thought that was a lot of money to pay. In less than 2 hours, I received 2 estimates from other phone survey companies. One was for $3,500 for a 10-question poll with 1,000 completed surveys. Now, for a county our size, $1,000 completed surveys is an optimum number for statistical relevance. The other was for $10,000, but they were going to use live operators. So the Charter Commission paid anywhere from 7 times to 2.5 times of competitive bids. The Charter Commission has paid way too much. It seems like they got taken for a ride and the taxpayers are paying for it. If this is how they treat tax money and do their due diligence for contracts, I can only imagine what surprises they have in store for us that are hidden in the charter they are writing. I repeat my call for the County Commission to investigate this waste. Oh, I forgot. Don Jenkins also said the Charter Commission is autonomous and isn't responsible to the county or the city. So they can waste our tax money and there's not a darn thing we can do about it? This is what you get when you have a self-appointed group of unelected people on a commission.
Thank you. Mr. Charlie Faust?
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. I'm here as a member of the Charter Commission to simply provide an update on our work. And let me start by saying we're a group of 15 volunteers, most of which have real jobs that we support our families with. The Charter Commission the work of the Charter Commission is a huge undertaking. It is, I think, more than any of us imagined it would be. Our job is to write the best charter we can, and what we have done is broken into committees that are tackling different pieces of the charter, and I simply want to report on which pieces are complete and which are in progress. 4 sections have been passed by the Commission, and the legal review is complete. Those are schools, which incorporates by reference the charter of the Montgomery County School System. The General Sessions Court section is complete. The municipal court will be unified with the existing General Sessions Court at the expiration of the current municipal judge's term in December of 2020. The mayor section is complete. He may serve 3 4-year terms. He presides over the meetings of the legislative body, but he is a non-voting member. The 4th section that has passed legal review is the legislative body. The legislative body is made up of the current 21 districts that exist now, and no redistricting will occur, but it also adds 4 at-large positions. The members there may serve 3 4-year terms. 2 other sections have passed on first reading and are under legal review. The constitutional officers establishes those positions that are required by law, and the metropolitan departments establishes the following departments of the unified government: finance, purchasing, audit. Now, audit is a big one. That has not existed. It gives power to the auditor, which does not answer to the legislative body, but to an audit committee. And they are authorized to perform audit functions on any of the other departments: property assessment, treasury, building and zoning, parks and rec, law, public works, and human resources. The legislative body is authorized to create, terminate, organize, conduct, and operate any department by ordinance. And the mayor is authorized to administer and supervise all departments created by the charter or by ordinance unless otherwise stated. And that's about as far as we've gotten. we've got a long way to go, but as these different sections are written and approved, we're going to put them up on a Facebook page, and the minutes of our meetings will be up there as well. We want to be as open and as transparent as we can, but that's as far as we've gotten. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Faust. Mr. Barry Smitto.
Thank you, Mayor Durrett. Saving lives must be a top priority. I just gave you quotes from Mayor Durrett and surrounding counties officials regarding high euthanasia rates and overcapacity shelters that cause heartbreaking conditions. After I spoke to you in August, shelter volunteer Tracy Hogan spoke, and she said it breaks her heart that so many animals come in as strays and owner surrenders. There's not enough room and animals must be euthanized. 3 months later, our shelter wrote on Facebook saying, "We're at cat capacity now." The next day, WSMV-TV wrote that Nashville's animal shelter is nearly at capacity for dogs and over capacity for cats. That occurred even though Nashville is a pilot city for Mars Pet Care. They give Nashville amazing help in adoptions, money, and direct action. I asked their director, Lauren Bluestone, about getting animal welfare into public school lessons. She said educating children is the best way to cause change, and getting this into public school lessons is an excellent idea. I asked if she could reach out to singing stars in Nashville who can help do this, and she said yes. A nonprofit named Maddie's Fund was created by software billionaires, and they have seminars on compassion fatigue that's experienced by shelter staff and volunteers. Maddie's Fund wrote, "Unless people who work with animals learn how to keep themselves emotionally healthy, they'll be at high risk of depression, anxiety, physical illness, and even suicide." Many rescuers in Clarksville use Facebook to find homes for dogs and cats, and they often write about the heartbreak they have. We have and need people of every ethnicity and every belief and non-believers to help us save animals' lives. I'm handicapped visually from internal eye cancer, and I have falls and near falls, and God's my hope for eternity, and I believe God's very relevant in everything, and especially here, because during every monthly meeting, Chaplain Creek prays a wonderful prayer. And in life, I've seen Mayor Durrett and our commissioners express their love for God. If you see me making my daily mistakes, please remember the Bible shows that God often uses people who are broken like me and who still struggle with sin every day. We're getting many people to support getting animal welfare included in public school lessons nationwide. We need religious and community leaders and news media and all elected officials, including you, to make this a priority. The Bible says not a sparrow falls apart from God's shoulder. I believe God is there for every euthanasia. We must do everything we can to assure that we only euthanize to stop suffering that can't be cured. Saving human and animals' lives must be a top priority for all of us. Forgot to turn my phone off.
That's okay.
Thank you, Mayor Durrett. Thank y'all.
You set your own timer, didn't you, Barry? Thank you, Barry.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to get into our agenda, and as we do that, I have two people I'd like to introduce to you. First, if I could have Mr. Dave Caskey come down to the microphone. Dave is our new Director of Animal Care and Control. Dave comes to us from Winnebago County Animal Services, located in Rockford, Illinois, just outside of Chicago. He served as the patrol sergeant, patrol commander, and ultimately the deputy director for the last 6 years. Prior to that, he served in the private sector doing security consulting and served as the chief of public safety for Candlewick Lake for 14 years as a lieutenant and sergeant prior to that. He has an associate's degree in criminal justice administration and has completed his bachelor's degree in information technology. Please help me welcome Mr. Dave Caskey. Dave, you want to say just a few words?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to thank everyone for the warm welcome I've received since I came down here. It's really incredible how welcoming this community is. And I have to say, I've been all over this country, and I haven't seen or been in a community that's had more pride than this one. And it makes me feel good to be here and be part of this community and working hard to make Montgomery County Animal Control the best in the state of Tennessee. And I look forward to meeting and working with all of you in the future. And I just thank you for the welcome, and I appreciate it.
Thanks, Dave. Thank you so much. Next, if I could have Mr. Jeff Tyndall come to the microphone as well. Jeff is our new director of the Clarksville-Montgomery County Regional Planning Commission. Jeff's experience as a planner spans 20 years of both public and private sector service, of which the last 10 years include working with federal clients such as the Air Force and Marine Corps, which makes him well-suited for working in a community like ours that has a large military presence. Jeff is a graduate of Rutgers University Bolston School of Planning and Public Policy with a master's in city and regional planning. He also holds dual degrees in geography and urban studies with honors, also from Rutgers. He served as county planner for over 10 years in New Jersey and South Carolina before working in the private sector. Jeff is a certified planner with American Institute of Certified Planners, and his blend of public and private sector experience is a strength when working with developers and consultants. He has completed multiple types of plans for communities and military installations across the Southeast and country, including comprehensive plans, development plans, transportation plans, design charrettes, and visioning workshops. Jeff is married with 4 boys, aged 22 months to 8 years, and as he says, things are busy at work and at home. He and his family are in the process to move into the area. Jeff, welcome to Montgomery County.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. I just prepared a few words just to further introduce myself. Good evening. I'm happy to be the new director of the Regional Planning Commission. I'm happy to be back in the private sector and ready to do the good work for the county and the city's citizens, developers, and visitors. I believe in operating a professional office that assists the commission, elected officials, and citizens equally and with transparency. We have a responsibility to our taxpayers and applicants to use our time, money, and resources effectively and efficiently. We have a responsibility not just to those mentioned, but also to the environment, education, utilities, national security, and many others, which we will take into account. I believe we can help guide future development in the city and the county to foster appropriate economic development, which further enhances the communities we live, work, and play in. As the city and county continue to grow, already outpacing 2012's population projection by 3 years, we're already past the expected population of 2020 in this county. We have to look at building up instead of building out, continuing to foster infill development, and communicating the types of businesses, industries, and housing we desire and need. The staff at the Regional Planning Commission will continue to be here to assist the County Commission and staff in making informed decisions and as a reference for data and other materials as needed. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Jeff. Welcome. All right, at this time, we have our zoning. John T., you want to come up and get going?
I'll swap out this laptop real quick. Feel like a NASCAR picker. Is it all the F8? You probably want to exit and come in. Start back here. Now that it's connected. Got it. There you go. Pause it there. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. So we have our first county case.
It's the
CZ3 2018, application to Generation Constructors LLC from AG to C5. Go ahead, Mr. Spain Howard.
It's on page 1 of your county staff report. As stated, it's Generation Constructors LLC. The agent is Anthony Daly. The request is to go from AG Agricultural District to C5 Highway and Arterial Commercial District. This is not currently an extension of the C5 zone. As you can see on the map above, the crosshatch property is the area that's being requested. It encompasses 0.89 plus or minus acres. To give further detail, it's property fronted on the west frontage of Lywood Road, which is State Route 233. It's 595 plus or minus feet north of the Lywood Road and Woodlawn Park Road intersection. Woodlawn Park Road would be where you see the C2 and RM2 just south of the crosshatch property. Here's the aerial overview of the property in question. This is looking north on State Route 233. The property would be on the left. This is the south view. The property is on the right. And this is looking into the site. And as it's described, it's a flat grassland field. The surrounding uses are single-family residential, and they're agriculturally zoned. There is previous zoning history on this application. In 2006, there was a request to go from ag to C2. At that time, it was recommended for disapproval by both the RPC staff and the Regional Planning Commission body. It was also disapproved by the County Commission in March of 2006. Page 2 of the staff report, there was a department comment from the County Stormwater Management Coordinator regarding drainage. We had some questions from an adjoining property owner and ourselves. This property is very flat, does not drain well. At which point in time we had questions about the development issues that could arise. It was stated that it could be difficult based on the topo and the soil conditions on the property. Page 3 of the staff report, I want to point out it's in the Woodlawn planning area and the staff's recommendation for disapproval with the reasons listed below. It is consistent with the growth plan, which afforded them the opportunity to make the application, but is inconsistent with the adopted land use plan. The parcel considered for rezoning and development is narrow in shape. The C5 zoning classification will require a 25-foot rear yard setback, a 25-foot side yard setback on both properties, which would severely limit the buildable area on the property. Also, the drainage concerns that exist both greatly limit the development opportunity for the parcel. This is also a mid-block rezoning commercial application, which it's not advisable to have those as it creates artificial breaks and unexpected stops in the traffic flow and can contribute to accidents. The landscape buffer, I know it's a popular question we get. Those are not required in the rural area. So this property, if rezoned to C5 and developed, would not have a landscape buffer required. The parcel is surrounded by established single-family uses, and the proposed C5 zoning is out of character and not compatible with the immediate surrounding properties. Page 4 is the zoning map overview that's currently on the screen. Page 5, we did have 2 public comments received. They are referenced and detailed there. In addition, an email from one of the individuals named in the comments provide an email on page 6 and 7 of the staff report. Pages 8 through 23 are photographs included in the staff report of the drainage concerns that exist. And page 24 was another email from a surrounding property owner in opposition. I'll be more than happy to try to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions of Mr. Spain Howard? Commissioner Nichols?
John, isn't this as part of the overflight or the sound restriction to Sable Army Airfield?
There were comments received from Fort Campbell. At present, if I recall correctly, let me turn to that page. It'll be on the department comments page. It says the property is located in the Sabre Approach Departure Surface Zone. It may be exposed to overhead flights and noise associated with it.
Any other questions of Mr. Spain Howard? John T., you want to go, if you don't mind, we'll do public hearing on this one.
That's fine.
And let you step back up to the microphone. All right, at this time, we'll go into public hearing to hear comments related to zoning application CZ3 2018, application of Generation Constructors LLC from AG to C5. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on behalf of this application? If so, please come forward. If you don't mind, give us your name, please.
Yeah, my name is Anthony Daly.
3 minutes.
I'm sorry?
Try to limit your comments 3 minutes.
Gotcha, Mayor. Thank you for the time. Thank you for the audience with everyone. My name is Anthony Daly, and I am a partner with Generation Constructors with Jamie Suter. And we wanted to share some comments about the property. Currently, the property is zoned ag, and it is unsuitable for a residential development. There are no economic advantages to the property in its current condition. Woodlawn is a growing area, and as we travel south from Highway 79, there are no storage businesses in that area. And so our desire with the property is to put mini storages on that property, and we feel that it will add value to the community, and it will also generate some revenue. We are going to properly landscape the property, and we have attached a plan for you to see what our intentions are. I would like to say this: there are currently 7 commercial properties within a half mile of this property. So it's not an unprecedented act that we're requesting here. There are 6 C5 properties, 1 C2, and there's an agricultural property acting as a commercial property in usage as well. There are no limitations as far as the residential or agricultural applications, so we could build a barn and use it for storage in personal items as well. So the property can be developed as we would like to develop that and find usage out of it. What we're proposing is an upgrade to the property. The comments from the property owners had concerns about existing water conditions where somebody took the vegetation off that property and now they're getting water onto their property. We plan to solve that problem with our construction and develop the lot to take care of some of the groundwater runoff that is hitting the existing facilities. We're not going to leave the property in its current condition. As it relates to the Planning Commission's recommendation, on point number 2, they said it's a narrow shape and it has a 25-foot setback. That is perfect with our application of construction. We're going to put mini storage buildings on it. We're going to fence the property in completely. And so the setbacks will not hinder our ability to build on the property. Noted in their recommendation as well as it appears to be severely impaired due to drainage concerns, both greatly limiting the development opportunity of this commercial property. We're aware of that, and we intend to solve that problem. There's concerns now, so the construction is going to allow us to limit some of that water runoff that has been noted. Number 3, it's not advisable to place high-intensity uses such as commercial in mid-block locations as they create artificial and unexpected breaks in traffic flows that could contribute to accidents and congestions. I would just note that other commercial property on that road are next to residential property, and they are not located on corner lots. They are in the mid-break. So I don't see that being a problem. Let me say this as well. We're putting mini storages on the property, and so the traffic that's going to come on and off the property is going to be no more than a residential house would receive in a given day as well. So it's not going to be a high traffic area. The visibility in that area, as you've seen the pictures, are clear, and you can see at a great distance, so you're not pulling out in a hazardous way. The parcel is surrounded by established single-family uses, and the proposed C5 zoning is out of character and incompatibility with immediate surrounding properties. Again, there are 7 commercial properties within a half mile of this particular property, and again, they are not all located on the corners of existing properties. I would just like to note that there was a concern by one of the property owners about the usage of their land, and they was concerned about how they was going to use their land. The development of this property in no way impedes their ability to develop their property further, to run horses on their property. We will definitely adhere to all the setback rules, fence the area in for any concerns other than the neighbors have. So wanted to submit that to you. I hope you'll consider that. We feel that it's going to add value to the community. We don't see how this would diminish the real estate property of the residential area in light of it's kind of a swampy ground right now, and it's definitely an eyesore, and we plan to beautify it and fix it and put some concrete down, raise the elevation appropriately, and control the groundwater on the property. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Any questions? Yep. That Commissioner Redd?
Thank you, Mayor. You said that you were going to put a fence around. I was wondering, is this the type of fence where it can't be seen at least on 3 sides, and how tall will this fence be?
Yeah, so it will be a privacy fence with some barbed wire around it as well. Obviously, we want to protect the material in the storage units. The property borders one of the residential properties really close, and we would consider even putting a privacy fence up to obscure that view for that property owner. I don't know him very well, but I know him, and we want to protect his privacy with people coming on and off the property. So we'd plan to work along with them in that.
Okay. Well, just for aesthetics purposes, you know, if it had the type that had, if it's chain link and had the lace type in there or something where it could not be viewed, you know, on 3 sides, I think that would go a long way in obtaining my vote anyway.
We would not be opposed to that. We would not be opposed to that at all.
All right. Mr. Sokol?
Thank you, Mayor. You said that you plan on dealing with the runoff water. It's at a water problem as it is now. You're going to add a structure, and you're also going to add asphalt. So would you please kind of give us a little more detail on how you plan on dealing with the water?
So the water is going to leave the property, obviously. With structure and with paving, we can control how the water leaves the property. Currently now, one of the owners had noted that the lot is draining across towards his building. Well, we can, obviously, with grade work, control the runoff of that water, and we can take it out in an area that is not hazardous towards his house.
Well, I don't think that's a plan. We have great concerns in this community concerning floodwater. So until you can articulate a little better plan on how you're going to deal with this water runoff, I don't see how this is going to be approved.
Okay, so let me restate it. Currently, the water is just washing across the adjacent properties because there is no grade work being done. What we're going to do is we're going to provide grade work that controls the water runoff, just like you do any other construction project within the county. You grade apportionately. You retain what you can to control the runoff of the property. We feel we have room on the property to develop our mini storages as well as retain what we need to control the flow off the property. It's a worse condition now because there is no control of the water runoff.
So where's this water going to go?
It's going to drain onto the properties that are around it, obviously, just like it does, but you control it in a way that it doesn't flood an adjacent property. It's going to make its way into the ditch on the front of the road, or it may drain off in the back area. We have not done a topo on it. We don't have a grading plan that has been done. The recommendations, even by the Planning Commission, that they're coming on speculation, not because there is a grading plan that has been done that understands exactly what's going to happen in those conditions.
Well, I don't see how you're going to be able to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Sokol. Commissioner Harper?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick question. Obviously, we have a lot of stormwater issues in the county, and I echo what Commissioner Sokol has stated as well. I'm trying to get my hands around if you add a non-permeable, basically pavement, concrete, roofs to a structure, you have less ground for that water to absorb in. And I am very uncomfortable with your answer you've given us tonight. Okay. And I think without any concrete details, I have a major problem with it. So just letting you know.
That's okay. If I could just respond to that.
Sure.
There is a hard pan in that entire area. So the ground is not conducive to absorption right now. That's why it's hard to get septic systems in that area. The ground is notoriously soft. So putting a structure there, again, is not going to limit absorption. There's absorbing problems taking place right now in that area.
I totally understand what you're saying. My district is in Sango, has some of the worst problems with stormwater. So I'm very intimately familiar with how that works, but I'm very uncomfortable with allowing more non-permeable structures on an area of land that already has problems with drainage, unless I see some sort of concrete plans.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Vallejos?
Thank you, Mayor. Well, I was thinking, as he was explaining earlier, Mayor, I think John read on the comments here that, you know, even if we approve him here, that he's still going to have to get a drainage approval from John Doss. So there would ultimately be an answer there, because no matter what happens, he's still going to have to seek approval whether we approve it, and should it go forward. So at the end, John Doss is going to ultimately give him an up or a down, and so that would answer the problem on whether the drainage or the construction or the pattern of construction or whatever the requirement would be met. So if it's not met, then at the end of the day, it wouldn't be constructed. So that's I'm just reading here. John Doss, storm water coordinator, would require drainage approval, and so obviously there may be some difficulty based on the topsoil, but I'm sure he's going to look at it, and so. You know, also it was disapproved at an earlier time for, so what is he supposed to do with it? So I think at the same time, I think it's give him an opportunity, and I think it would be only fair. And then if the guy doesn't approve it, then you don't approve it. Then he's back to square one. That's the way I look at it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Commissioner Butts?
Mayor, I had a question for John. If this area here is not rated to have anything on it, what could be put on it?
It's an agricultural piece of land now. As stated, it's not going to be suitable for a septic field. That's one of our concerns. It's not suitable for single family because you can't get the septic field. The concerns of the extreme, this property alone is not just the level property. If you saw in the photographs, there is very limited contour anywhere. So there is going to be drainage concerns for him to maintain and control the water and still get it off of his property to be able to have the impervious areas that he has listed.
From what I'm reading here, and this might be for you guys, you're not going to have a septic tank on that property? No, sir. So there's not going to be an office there? No, sir. Okay. Thank you, gentlemen.
You're welcome.
Is there anyone else in the audience to speak on behalf of CZ3 2018? Anyone else in the audience to speak on behalf of CZ3 2018? Anyone in the audience to speak in opposition to CZ3 2018? Anyone to speak in opposition? All right, we're now closing the public hearing on CZ3 2018. Mr. Spainhoward, CZ4 2018 application of George and Clemmy Gardner from M2 to AG.
Okay, this starts on page 25 of your staff report. The zoning map overview of the property in question. The present zoning is M2 industrial. The proposed zoning is agricultural district. This would be an extension of the agricultural zoning classification. The applicant's statement for proposed use is they want to rezone 10 acres to be changed from industrial to agricultural. I want to jump to the bottom of page 25 and how we got to this property being zoned M2. In 1974, there was a sawmill operation that was rezoned and put on this property, at which point in time they did open up and operate. They have since closed down. The individual, Mr. and Mrs. Gardner, do have a residential home on the property, and at the point in time we brought the application in, they're trying to refinance their home, and this came back as a finding that it was zoned M2. So that's the reason you have the agricultural request in front of you. This property is located on the south frontage of Highway 41. It's 1,500 plus or minus feet east of the Highway 41 and Piney Woods Road intersection. And it does encompass the 10 acres that are crosshatched on the screen. Property is flat, general rolling agricultural land. There are some tree lines with residential structures. This is also known, I believe, as the South Guthrie area. You do have a mixture of C5 residential and some M2 that's remaining in the area. and this is in the PGA area. Page 26 of the department comments, there were none of any concern. Page 27, I want to point out it's in the Rossview Road planning area. The staff and the Planning Commission's recommendation for this application are both for approval. It's consistent with the adopted land use plan and growth plan. There were no adverse environmental issues identified, and the request will bring the existing residential use into compliance. Here's the aerial overview of the property in question. Property is on the left in this photograph, and that's where the home is located. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions of Mr. Spainhoward? All right, thank you. We're now going to public hearing for comments related to CZ4 2018. Anyone in the audience to speak on behalf of this application? Anyone to speak on behalf of CZ4 2018? Anyone in the audience to speak in opposition to CZ4 2018? Any opposition? All right, we'll close the public hearing on CZ4 2018, CZ5 2018, application of STAP Investments LLC from AG to C5. Mr. Spainhoward.
Yes, it starts on page 30 of your staff report. The present zoning of this property is zoned agricultural, and its proposed zoning is C5. This property is located at the southwest corner of Highway 41A South and Bagwell Road intersection and does encompass .72 plus or minus acres. It's currently crosshatched area that's on the screen. The proposed use listed by the applicant is a kayak sales business, and their statement further reads, the property is located on subject property which originally built for commercial purposes. The proposed zone change is compatible with the surrounding lots and should not impact or disrupt neighbors or traffic flow. It's a semi-wooded corner lot. The existing structure was built in 1948. To the north, you have R1 and vacant C5. The property owner that has the vacant R1 to the north has contacted our office to recommend approval of this application. The west, east, and south are both zoned agricultural and have single-family uses established. There is no previous zoning history on this property. On page 31, there were no department comments of any concern. Page 32, I will point out it's in the Sango planning area, and both the staff and the Planning Commission's recommendation for approval. It is consistent with the growth plan and adopted land use plan. I want to show you the aerial overview of the property in question. The structure that's in the center of the photograph, you see Bagwell Road heading to the left. This is a close-up view, head on, and the property will be located in the right on this photograph. The property on the left that's vacant is the landowner who is in favor, and the property that you can see, the white structure there, that is the other area of C5 that's diagonal across the street. There were no environmental issues, adverse environmental issues relative to this case found. The property is located in an intersection with existing commercial. It's also an extension of the existing C5 zoning classification to the northeast, and the adopted land use opinion map indicates there's commercial zoning in this area. It also encourages commercial zones in rural areas to save trips to the city. The last page of your staff report is the zoning map overview of the property in question. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions for Mr. Spainhoward? Thank you, John T.
Thank you.
All right, we'll go into public hearing for CZ5 2018. Anyone in the audience to speak on behalf of this application? How are you this evening? I'm doing well. If you would, please give us your name and try to limit your comments to 3 minutes or less.
Sure. My name is Hunter Stapp. It was a property that was my parents. My mom actually grew up across the street on Bagwell Road. And when they passed, I received a building that they had been using for storage for many years and just trying to figure out what to do with it. A friend of mine and I love the Sango community, grew up there, wanted to offer something for the community, some identity, something that provided a little extra culture to what we have out there. So we started Run Amok. It's a kayak sales and canoe business. And what we're trying to do now is trying to get the zoning to fit what the building, I believe, was intended when it was built, and what it would need to be for us to continue to operate. There was nothing pressing our hand. We just wanted to actually get the zoning to fit what we're using it for. So, sorry I'm not very well spoken in all this.
You're doing fine.
So, anyway, I believe that's all I have. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Any questions of Mr. Stapp? All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the audience to speak on behalf of CZ 5 2018? Anyone in the audience to speak in opposition to CZ 5 2018? Anyone to speak in opposition? All right, we'll now go into, we'll close the public hearing. We'll now go to our resolutions. Our first resolution is Resolution 1831, resolution to establish an annual training program for Montgomery County Board of Equalization members. I think Ms. Hester is here, and we will let you have the microphone.
Thank you. Good evening. The legislative body for the state of Tennessee last session passed law that requires 4 hours of mandatory training for county boards of equalization. And as part of that legislation, they also required that each local county county commission pass a resolution saying that we are going to mandate 4 hours of training in our county, and also supporting record-keeping functions for that. As far as the County Board of Equalization for Montgomery County, I don't know that any of y'all have been in front of us, but in 2014, we created and the body passed an operating procedure. So every year with the election of new officers, this body also passes their operating procedures. That does include record keeping as far as attendance and decisions for the meetings. And that covers what the law is asking for in this resolution, but any questions I'm happy to entertain.
Thank you, ma'am. Any questions for Aaron? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Resolution 1832, resolution of Montgomery County Board of Commissioners approving amendments to the 2017-18 school budget. I know Mr. Grant is here and Mr. House as well. Any questions on 1832? All right, resolution 1833, resolution to implement the Jackson Law in Montgomery County, Tennessee regarding solid waste processing facilities. Mr. Graham?
Jackson Law is codified in Tennessee Code 68211, Part 7. And what Jackson Law really establishes that if any commercial or private enterprise should choose to establish a waste processing or a waste disposal facility within our jurisdiction, then they have to get that authority from 2/3 of the legislative body. So Stewart County has already established that within the Bi-County region. This is just our motion to establish it in Montgomery County as well.
Any questions of Mr. Graham? Mr. Redd?
This would allow it, then later if a company did want to have a landfill, then we would have to approve it as well? Yes, sir. Later correct. On? Okay. Yes, sir. It really brings the authority and the responsibility back to the legislative body for things such as that. Yes, sir.
Anybody else have any questions of Mr. Graham? Mr. Harper?
Thank you, Mayor. Is there a waste processing facility other than? Than by
Other than
county?
by county. There is one within our jurisdiction now that operates, yes, sir.
Would they be grandfathered or?
Well, they'd be grandfathered in that they're fine as they are, but if there should be a change in classification to that facility, then that would have to come before this body.
What's the interpretation of a change of classification?
Change of classification, being able to manage different volumes of waste or processing waste in a different manner.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions of Mr. Graham? Thank you, Mr. Graham.
Thank you.
Resolution 1834, resolution asking the legislative body of Tennessee to amend Private Acts 79, Chapter 167 regarding hotel motel tax. Commissioners, this is an increase in our hotel motel tax as well as changing the current state law which allocates the existing hotel motel tax to the Tourism Commission, or you could call it the CVB, the City of Clarksville and Montgomery County. It does change the percentages for the Convention and Visitors Bureau and the City of Clarksville, but it keeps both of those entities whole as far as the funding that they're receiving now, and they would continue to see if we have growth, they would see that growth as well. This has to pass 2/3 majority by the county commission. Then it would have to go to the state for the legislative body to consider it, and then that would actually have to come back to Montgomery County and again pass, I believe, Tim, 2/3 again? Yes. By this body before it could be enacted. Quite frankly, most of you know we're looking at a multi-purpose event center in our community. This is a way to pay for it without the property tax, without our property owners paying for it through a property tax. Most of our hotel motel tax is generated by people who come through our community to spend the night here or to spend more than one night here. This does not have to be, I use the terminology turned on. If it's ratified here, it goes to the state legislature, comes back to us. If that project does not move forward, we certainly do not have to prove that. We have until October of 2019. I believe that's correct, Tim?
Before October 1st.
Yeah, before October 1st of 2019, before we would have to act on it as a body. And I'll try to answer any questions. Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What effect, if any, would this have on Airbnb properties?
I don't think Airbnbs are covered under hotel motel tax.
They're currently not. They are currently, there's a dispute going about whether they should fall under that, whether they shouldn't fall under that. By our definition, they're not a hotel motel.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's a very good question. Anybody else? Commissioner Redd?
Thank you, Mayor. I guess I've got two questions. In B, I think that's the last sentence that's a real long sentence that's saying it's exclusive use to pay the cost, build, design, or acquire land for a multi-purpose event center construction, debt, infrastructure, or additions. So this money would also help us basically to leverage, and then we would borrow the money for an event center.
Well, I think the entire thought process behind this is to create a revenue fund other than property taxes to pay for such a facility if we decide to move forward with such a facility.
Okay, but we would borrow the money using this amount basically as the amount to leverage against, and this would pay back the borrowed amount.
We don't know how much the facility is going to cost. We're in our due diligence process, but this is legislation that would allow us to service the debt on it.
Okay. Question number two, is there anything that would prohibit this from going to a referendum, of us looking at putting this as a referendum rather than just being voted on by the county commissioners here, because we've got 3 elections, May and August and November coming up?
Your referendums are statutorily recognized for certain kinds of acts. I'm reticent to tell you that a referendum can't occur for something like this, but it is totally a privilege tax that's approved by the legislature as a private act. The scheme that you've gone through before is when you want a private act amended or established, as we have done with a particular tax, the wheel tax last year, you vote asking the legislature to do something. It's the legislature that actually does it. They're the ones who say, we're going to pass this private act. It then only becomes effective if it comes back to you and you vote by 2/3 to adopt it and accept it. That's the phrase Mr. Durrett used as turn on. In other words, that private act is passed by the legislature, and before October 1st of 19, a 2/3 vote must occur to ratify it and make it a part of our law.
Let me restate the question a little bit here. Instead of voting to raise the tax on the hotel and motel and to the money to be allocated here in this resolution, part of it for this capital project of not a conference, a multi-purpose event center, we can either vote yes, no, or can someone amend or make the motion to put this to a referendum? And if it passed this body, could it go to a referendum from a vote of this body?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
And I want you to give me the opportunity to correct myself, and I'll do that over the next day or two. But a referendum is rarely recognized as a method to, I mean, there are some referendums that are established by statute, but this is a private act that has a passage plan, which is to go through the legislature once that privilege tax is employed. In this case, we already have one. This is just increasing it. So I don't believe that a referendum is legally possible.
But you can check on that between now and the regular voting session.
I will.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, and if I could just add, I honestly believe to put this resolution before a referendum is very premature. We don't know the cost of the facility yet. This is putting a mechanism in place that if this project goes forward, we have a way to pay for it besides using property tax dollars. To me, quite frankly, I think it's a very innovative way to do it. I think too many times we go to the property taxpayers, much like we do for Paris Landing State Park, for Rich Ellen, for any of those. And quite frankly, the law regarding hotel motel tax really says it should go towards tourism. Right now, today, every bit of the proceeds that we receive from the hotel motel tax, and I think I can speak for the city, they go into the general fund. Now, we can say that, yeah, they go to Parks and Rec, but we're not allocating those funds. These funds are allocated for a specific project if the project goes forward.
Okay, but now if we borrow as well on this, will this amount of money pay back the event center or this multi-purpose center?
Until we know the cost, we don't know.
Okay.
But it's putting a mechanism in place that if we do choose to go forward, we have a way to possibly service all the debt or a portion of the debt.
Okay, but we don't know for sure then that no property tax would be used for this multi-purpose event center.
You could vote in August to raise the property taxes. You could. I can't. You could. So no, you ask me, are any property taxes going to go to it? I don't know. That would be up to this body. It's not up to me.
Right. I just wanted to make sure that there was an understanding that this amount of money from the increase will not completely pay for the multi-purpose event center. It'll have to come, whether you want to call it general fund or property tax or whatnot, it'll still have to be money. We will have to do some more debt service or take on more debt to build this. And that's why I was just wondering.
Regardless, if this would service 100% of the debt, we would have to take on more debt.
Okay.
We would have to take on more debt. We're not going to pay cash for it.
Right.
But to say that we're going to use property tax dollars for it, in my opinion, is premature because we don't know what the cost is.
Okay.
Any other questions on 1834? All right, 1835, resolution authorizing the purchase of an X-ray scanner for the historic courthouse. I know the sheriff's here. The thing's just gone kaput.
I think that was exactly the words that I used, Mayor. Those of y'all familiar with it, when you come into this building, it's the X-ray machine downstairs. And what that thing does, it allows the deputies to screen small backpacks, purses, things like that, where they don't have to physically open the bag and search for contraband. It is out of date. It was a scanner that we had gotten from another county, and there's just no way to fix it. So this is just replacing that with a machine of similar size. The only other thing I do want to add to that, Mayor, is that we didn't know the exact dollar amount until we got that quote back. That quote does expire next Monday, but that amount was $25,042.93. But after the quote there expires on Monday, I don't know if it may be a little more than that, so it may be an amendment need to be done to this to lower it, or we can just change it to a not more than the amount that you see on this page.
What is the, I'm trying to find it. What is the amount on the page?
It's $28,150.16.
I'm good with not to exceed that amount. Any questions of the sheriff? All right, Sheriff, without objection, while you're up there at the microphone, do you want to do 1837 as well?
Yes, sir.
It's a resolution to appropriate funds to make certain immediate improvements to the public safety training complex.
Yes, sir, and this is just some operational budget items that we need to, some things we need to address on the property this FY. And Chief Edwards is here. We sat down the other day with the mayor and discussed some things that we do need to do at the property, and these three lines right here would allow us to do that. The other contracted services would cover things like pest control and keeping the grounds maintained until the end of the FY. The custodial supplies is self-explanatory for when we're out there using the place. And then the other supplies and materials, some gravel work. There's been a lot of rain out there over the last several months that has washed some of that road work away. And of course, we're going to try to use some help from the highway department and places like that to do that as low cost as possible. And I don't know if I mentioned it to the mayor, but during the storms over last weekend, I did get an opportunity to visit the site again. There wasn't any damage to any structures, but there's several trees down on the property blocking roads. So we're going to have to work out some innovative ways to get that done as well. So that's just all these three items here cover. It just helps take care of the maintenance of the property until the end of the fiscal year. And then we will prepare a budget for next fiscal year, working with Chief Edwards and Fire with Commissioner Baggett and EMA on some other items that need to be added for an operational budget for next FY.
Any questions of the sheriff? All right.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff. We're going to go back one now to 1836, resolution approving. Mr. Harper, I'll just let you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a resolution that I've worked on with State Representatives Pitts and Johnson. And for those of y'all that aren't familiar with Edgar Harrell, he lives actually out in Sango in my district. Mr. Harrell was on the USS Indianapolis that was sunk in World War II by a Japanese submarine. And his story is remarkable, to say the least. I had the opportunity to talk to Mrs. Harrell today. I hope that they'll both be in attendance on Monday. It's something we wanted to do to honor heroes that live among us, especially heroes that while they're still alive. I think it's a great opportunity to honor Mr. Harrell. I've heard him speak before. I've read his book. I'm very impressed with it. I had a great uncle that fought in World War II in the Battle of the Bulge. And to me, World War II, when we get an opportunity to honor the greatest generation, especially when they're still among us in our midst, I think it's an opportunity we need to exercise. So I would appreciate your support. I'm also would tell you that the heavy lifting on this was done by Representative Pitts and Johnson, not by myself. So I'd appreciate your support on it.
Thank you. Do you want to ask yourself a question? You're showing up there again to speak.
I'm great.
Okay.
I know I've asked a lot of questions, but asking myself a question, I don't think so. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Harper, and thank you for that effort, you along with Representative Pitts and Representative Johnson. Resolution 1838 is a resolution to establish land purchase guidelines as internal operating rule of Montgomery County Commission as recommended by the Rules Committee. Commissioner Riccone, do you want to speak to this? You probably aren't prepared, but I know you're prepared all the time.
I lost my train of thought, Mayor.
A lawyer lost his train of thought.
Give me 1 second. So this came out of the Rules Committee, and what we were looking at was, especially with Attorney Tim Harvey's direction, is we need a set of rules and guidelines as far as how we're going to purchase real property. And the Rules Committee really struggled with this to some degree, and we looked at examples regarding the Civic Plaza downtown and having to get the parcels together. Do we allocate funds for the master purchase of it? And then how do we allocate the funds for the individual parts? And ultimately, we came to the conclusion that we would vest that power in the Budget Committee, meaning that if it wasn't previously, it had to be budgeted, and it would go through the vetting process with the Budget Committee, and then any additions to that or any additional funds would have to go back to the Budget Committee. We tried to do this as a check and balance system without requiring too much extra work. And an example I can give everybody is we first discussed having, you have to have an appraisal on every piece of property no matter what the purchase price is. Well, we all know that the county may want to get a piece of property for $5,000 or $6,000, and do we want to have to pay $2,000 for an appraisal? So we thought the hard rules that thou shalt do this in every instance would be a little archaic and would be a little unwieldy. So this is what came through the Rules Committee. It went through the Budget Committee, and I think it's proper, and I ask that everybody support that.
Any questions of Mr. Riccone?
I was Googling Edgar.
All right. Thank you, sir. Next on our agenda is old business. Any old business? At this time, I'm going to call on Ms. Rebecca Norman to give us an Ag Committee report. How are you, Rebecca?
Here tonight. Thank you for the privilege of being here, and we thank you for your support for our chili supper tonight. We had quite a few people there. We've had a very successful day in the chili business, and that money will go to help young people go to 4-H camp. So that's what we use to subsidize and help that camp be a little more affordable for these young folks. So tonight what I'm going to do is, as you know, our tradition has been once a year we come before the commission and share with you what our office has done for Montgomery County. And we thought we'd do it a little bit differently this year. We have about a 3-minute video. We want you to see some of the things we've done.
What happened?
Did the internet freeze it? Skip. Technology is great when it works, and when it doesn't, we wait, don't we? It's frozen on good pictures, isn't it?
I don't know if it's going to.
Well, we apologize for our technical difficulty. Some of the best pictures you're going to miss, though, but I do recall that the last part of the video showed that we had had individual phone conversations, been to someone's farm, or touched 57,000 folks in the past year in our office. So we're real proud of it. It is our high calling and our to serve the people here in this county. So we thank you for your partnership that enables us to do that and make that possible. So thank you for another good year.
Thank you, Rebecca. Commissioner Genus, update on school liaison?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. If I can, I'll do it from the seat here.
Yes, sir.
School board, of course, stayed quite busy this month. They, in their formal meeting, of course, Points of Pride Award for the Teachers of the Year and different students throughout the area. Also gave a real good briefing to the school board in reference to the medical care that's given, I guess, to the county employees and the school system employees, where they're at as far as benefits, customers served, and of course, they really talked about events to promote healthy living. So it was quite an interesting briefing to the school board members. At their work sessions, each department within the school system presented to the school board then, talking about expanding recruitment of certified teachers, especially minorities, how they're going about it. A lot of questions were asked. Again, filling admin slots, bus drivers. Once they repair a portable houses or trailers that are used, though they did talk about the construction projects and being able to, and they thanked us, by the way, for passing the building permits and the money in order to expand the school areas. They still have to use the portables, and of course how they're repairing them, giving them more life. A lot of talk on bus routes. Admin, of course, talked about outreach programs throughout the community and briefed the school board members, and of course computer IT, where they're going. And some really neat things coming in that arena down the road with new businesses in town, and they'll talk about that and let them do their thing there. And as I say, they also asked questions with the school board. Just like tonight, the amendments that we had no questions on, they had several questions where money came from, where you're spending money. And they just were very, very active, shall we say, as they monitored then the school system. And all went well. That's really all I have, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Next up, we'll go to the county mayor nominations and appointment. Under the nominations, under the Airport Authority Liaison Committee, Commissioner Ed Baggett nominated to replace Commissioner Ron Sokol for a 2-year term to expire March 2020. Commissioner Jason Hodges nominated to serve another 2-year term expiring March 2020. And Commissioner Tommy Vallejos nominated to serve another 2-year term to expire March 2020. Judicial Commissioner, this is a 1-year term with a max of 4 years. Joe Papastafis, part-time employee, has been filling an unexpired term, is now eligible to serve his first full one-year term to expire March 2019. And under county mayor appointments, and this will require commission approval, and I want to publicly apologize. For some reason, when we appointed the fire chief in January, we had the word interim in front of it for Mr. Ed Baggett. And basically, we want to appoint Mr. Baggett as the fire chief for Montgomery County until further notice, removing that interim tag. How I said it and put it on there, I don't know, but just chalk one up against me. So Ed, I apologize for that. You'll see in your reports that are filed under announcements, just a few quick announcements. Number one, thanks to the 4-H for the chili supper tonight. It would have been nice if they would have had Frosties, but they didn't, but the chili was still good. I want to thank James Corlew Chevrolet. Commissioner Genius talked about it. I attended the red carpet where they gave out the Teacher of the Year awards. I think it was 58 principals or teachers throughout the district. And James Corlew gave the last three folks that were nominated for Teacher of the Year through district-wide and not in their education level. He gave away a brand new car to one of the Teachers of the Year. And Mr. Elliot Herslick of Elliott Jewelers gave away 2 really nice diamond necklaces. So hats off to James Corlew Chevrolet, James Corlew. And the Hancock Tire, today I had the opportunity to go out there. Hancock actually got hit pretty hard by the tornado. They had a lot of glass damage. They have some exterior damage, some roof damage, but probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 60 to 70 windows that have to be replaced. I think they had 74 cars damaged in their lot. But as new as they are to the community, they donated $10,000 today to United Way to help with tornado relief in Montgomery County. So hats off to Hancock Tire. And lastly, I just want to say thanks to all of our first responders, to our highway department, and to all the many, many volunteers and just regular staff members as well that responded to the tornadoes last Saturday. I think we did an awesome job, and so thank you to each and every one of you. We have no further business. We'll stand adjourned. Thank y'all.